you are okay with the 6-day creation. Do you have any questions about that?
6-day creation. I think it was 6 periods of time. And I believe when the scriptures were first written, days would be the easiest way to translate that to the Hebrew readers. So I instead believe that instead of 6 24-hour periods, I believe it was 6 periods of creation. And that could extend to a much vaster amount of time. It could be billions of years in that sense.
Why do you say that?
Why do I say that? Well,
Because why I say it has to be literal and not periods, the way it is written, evening and morning first day, evening and morning second day, evening and morning third day, okay, fourth day, fifth day, sixth day. Whenever you see this evening and morning or first day, second day, always referring to the 24 hours day.
24 hours.
Okay, then one more thing. Yeah, Exodus chapter 20 verse 11, it clearly says God created everything in 6 days. Therefore, you have to have a Sabbath on the 7th day. That 7th day Sabbath there in context is 24 hours Sabbath.
And we continue the ritual with the 7-day week.
Yeah, the 7th day creation week, that Sabbath continues because it doesn't say evening and morning there, right? So what I'm trying to say, I don't see any reason. Why do you put millions of years there, long period of time there? Why do you think that way?
Well, going back to the scripture, you were talking about morning to evening.
Yeah.
That beginning and end structure.
Evening and morning, that's what it says. Because for God, everything is morning. It has to end with morning. Evening and morning. That's evening and morning, first day, second day. Go ahead.
Yes. So I believe that stands as a symbolic stand-in for beginning and end, transitioning from one period of time to the next. And I believe that God works in allegories constantly throughout the Old Testament. The Old Testament especially whenever he communicates with Joseph in his dreams, he uses cows. He uses 7 full, healthy cows and 7 hungry, starved cows. And the 7 starved cows ate the full and healthy ones. Now, if we were going to take that literally, we would say that the Egyptians would face 7 hungry cows that would eat 7 full cows. But no, that wasn't what God contended. What God meant by that was 7 years, healthy years, would be followed by 7 years of starvation and 7 years of bad weather and bad fortunes. So I believe that extends in other portions of the Old Testament, especially the Genesis period. Was it 7 literal days? Would that be the same as saying it'd have to be 7 literal cows? Because Joseph in his translations, in his prophetic dreams, he had to translate that. He had to say, okay, God told me this, but what does that mean? And I believe that extends to the Genesis period too. God says that the world was created in 7 days. What does that mean? And that's my personal interpretation of it.
I will tell you, there is a difference between what is happening with the account of Joseph and what is written in Genesis chapter 1. The difference is this. In the account of Joseph with Pharaoh seeing a dream, God had a plan to make Pharaoh and other people recognize Joseph. So God gave Pharaoh a dream, right? Am I right?
Yes, he did. And Joseph would need to be the translator.
Yes, okay. Then God also gave the power to Joseph to interpret that. But that is not what is happening in Genesis 1. In Genesis 1, God didn't have to say evening and morning, first day or second day or anything like that. God didn't have to. But God is giving us the detail. And then God also defines one place, the day, the word used for day is yom. It could be, it can talk about part of day, means a day, the light, day and night, and also long period of time, and also it can use for 24 hours. Okay, so there we can see it defines the day as the part of day, like the daylight as day. Then God is saying evening and morning first day, evening and morning second day. When God gives us this detail, and then when Moses in Exodus, God is revealing to him that in 6 days God created everything, that also shows that it has to be literal. That is my approach.
Now it's interesting. I think that's the beauty of theological discussion is that we can both have
Correct.
these discussions
Correct.
and interpretations
Yeah,
of it.
I would say the long period of idea came to people because of the so-called scientific consensus on the age of the earth and about how everything is here through evolution. I would say those are their ideas, and we have no real evidence for what they are saying, how long ago the earth formed or anything like that.
And my only thing with that is I see both the Genesis story and the 7-day story of creation of the earth, but I also see 8 billion years on this earth. I really do see
Why do you say
a
that?
long time period that would take for a lot of this beautiful development and this painting, kind of.
Why do you say that? I'm trying to understand you. Because we know that to grow this tree, it takes, this many years.
That
Right.
tree right there, I think it takes around 80 years to get to that
Yeah,
point,
okay.
right?
Oh, yeah, around 80 years, right?
Yeah,
So-
I mean, think of all the trees in the world.
Yeah,
think of
so
development, the
in
rock
which
development.
way you say that the earth is like billions of years old? Why do you say that?
Well, take a gander for this tree here.
Yeah,
It would be mad for me to say it took 5 years for this tree to develop.
I
correct?
agree. Yeah,
It would. And so we see in this tree instead 80 years. And we can cut open that tree and we could see all the little rings in its
Yeah.
roots. And we
Yeah.
could tell that.
yeah.
Now with the earth,
Yeah.
whenever we look at it, whenever we look at its shell, whenever we look at its formations and its scale and how it works, it suggests billions of years. We open up its rings and it's going to show 8 billion years.
Yeah.
It's just the way that it's formed on its bare geological bones.
In
And
the-
the development between natural resources, natural gases, coal, so on and so forth. It just states 8 billion years. And I believe that the creation and God's movement and the way that he made the world was through those 8 billion years. I mean, God is timeless, so you would think that time would be irrelevant to him and he could have as much fun extent as he wants.
But at the same time, don't you think God is almighty? He can create in a second everything?
Sure.
Right.
And I believe that.
Can I
time's
respond to
irrelevant.
something about this tree?
Sure, go ahead.
This tree, because of our observational evidence, we know this is this many years old. Because we can compare, we know maybe a tree we planted 30 years ago.
Sure.
Looking at the tree rings, we know that, oh, okay, this has this many tree rings.
Yes.
Then compare that with this. But in the case of the age of the earth, we don't have any standard that we can really say.
The layers of the earth, yes, we do.
No.
The fossil record and the fossil layers.
Yeah, but fossil layers doesn't come with an age.
It does though.
No,
It is that it
no.
can
That's
separate
our
the layers of
assumption.
the earth.
No, that is what we assume that there is something called a geological column there. It's not really anywhere in the world you will see this layer, this layer, this layer, this layer, this layer with these fossils. No, these are made up to account for their theory. This is how the evolution happened. There is nothing in the world that has geology column with all these in one, bottom to the top layer. Nowhere in the world.
But we can also see.
That's their assumptions.
Well, I can see the age in the earth, but if you even don't want to look at the earth, you can still look at the stars. And the stars, they show their age as well, and their wrinkles and the times that it takes them to move and the movements they've had. It's all very obvious. I guess it'd be the same as footprints on the ground, kind of in a mathematical sense.
No.
And I personally, my theory is, as far as God and time goes, it's very, very difficult to measure God with time because he's a metaphysical being. And my argument for that is that God, time itself, to define time is the measurement of matter, moving from one place to another. How long does it take from matter to move to one place to another? How do we measure time for a being that has no matter? God has no matter. How do you measure
No,
that?
we are not talking about measuring God. I am
course
saying
not.
what
It's
we are.
impossible for an
We are
infinite being.
talking about what we can see now. I would say the age determination is a very difficult process, unless there is an observer from the beginning until now. He says, "Oh, I know this is 8 billion years,
A
or
witness.
witness, 4 billion years, or 2 billion years." Somebody is there. That's how we know your age. True age of you, only through a witness. They assign that birth certificate. Then you know this is the true age. This is when you came into the earth, right? So that is the problem. When we talk about earth, we don't have a true method to really determine, because we are making several assumptions. You may want to look at how they determine age. Okay, when you look at that, they don't have any standard. They make some assumptions based on what we know about the radioactivity now, the half-life of uranium and things like that. But they didn't know what was the original condition at that time. Or I will give you this. Say God created this tree yesterday. God can, right?
Sure,
In the
he can
Garden
do
of
anything.
Eden, when God created Garden of Eden, He created big trees right away. And when you try to look at the tree ring, it will show that maybe it is 1,000 years old. But it was created just one day ago. Or Adam, when you look at Adam, God created him as a full-grown man. And the real age is just one day.
Well, the
So
only thing
God
about-
created everything with an age.
And that's the thing. I don't understand why God would then design his creations and his paintings and his work to look older than it actually is. That doesn't make sense to me.
No, it
And,
doesn't
and
look
I
old.
believe that he's been creating for such a vast, long length of time. Again, billions of years. I think he's been creating for that long. And my view of God is that not only did he create those trees, but in a way he is those trees. The reality that we live in is an extension of God itself, is what I would say.
Okay. You can have your own view of God.
Yes.
I
yes.
can have my own. But which view is true? When God is telling in the Bible, this is how He did it, why do we want to become like God and saying, "Oh God, no, this is how it was done"? I won't go that way.
Yes.
If you-
Human arrogance.
Yeah.
Really, we believe we're made in the image of God, and that justifies us to be better than God. And we just don't have that potential, and we don't have that ability.
Yeah.
But I'll also say this, going back to Genesis and Exodus, was it the first 4 books of the Bible that Moses wrote?
First 5.
First five books of the Bible Moses wrote. And it was written in the name of Moses. And to say that Moses was divinely inspired, correct?
Yeah, correct.
Well, looking at the other prophecies and the other parables and the other stories that are written across the Bible that are divinely inspired, especially the book of Revelation,
Yeah.
they're revealed to people in dreams, and they're revealed to people in a lot of metaphorical ways.
Yeah.
You can see a lot of the symbolisms and stuff, and I believe that when Moses first wrote the creation account, and it was the account that he received from God, I believe that he just didn't have an understanding of billions of years. He couldn't have an understanding of the cosmos and the mathematics that were only developed thousands of years after his life. So what he did is he had to make stand-ins. He had to say, okay, so God told me that he made the universe in this way. This is a time period, I'm going to call it a day. Morning to evening, beginning to end. That's a day. And he did it in 7 periods. I do believe it was 7 periods of creation,
Sure.
but it
Do
was
you-
7 periods extended out a vast amount of time.
Do you think you have enough knowledge to say that?
I believe that humans, with the records that we've had and the records we've taken of the world around us, we can make an account not of God's potential, but what God did. And we can see what God did all around us in the universe.
I know, but how God did it, or how long it take God for to do this, that if we try to say, no, what is written in the Bible is not the way God did it, I think you are making yourself to be someone better than Moses who spoke directly to God. So you may want to think about that. Even Jesus accepted the creation account as history. Because Jesus said in the beginning, God created the male and female. So Jesus is talking about that account, right?
Yes.
I am not in a position to say that I am better than Moses or Jesus.
Of course not. Of
Yeah.
course not. And I could never be better.
So
than
that's
Christ.
why I won't go that way.
In fact, that's why I'm a Christian.
Yeah.
I'm a Christian because everything man made and everything that man is faulty. It's
Yeah,
not
correct.
confident. It's unstable. It's a
Correct.
position that's hard to hold
Correct.
because it is corrupted.
Correct.
Christ, on the other hand, that's an uncorruptible
Unchanging
position.
Christ, same yesterday, today, and forever.
Exactly.
So let's start on Christ.
It's the one figure and it's the one being in history that walked on the earth that is perfect.
Correct.
So it's an ideal to try to reach to. We can't
Correct.
be to that Christ level, but we can work towards it every
Correct.
day.
Correct.
And that's what I like to think.
So
How about
follow
you?
him. That's what I wanted to say. Trust him. Follow him.
Precisely.
Yeah. Receive his life. Thank you. Any other questions?
Not really. I thought it was a very nice discussion.
Yeah.
I thought it was very interesting.
Thank you.
I enjoyed it.
Thank you so much. I
Am
appreciate
I
it.
going to be on YouTube now?
Real science has theories that make predictions we can test over and over and observe the results. Don't trust fake science.